Hi. Earlier this week, I think it was Thursday, we talked about the dangers of a deadlocked convention, and that if we let this process go to the end of August, we could really throw away our chances of defeating Obama and saving America. What I'd like to talk about in today's history is those conventions that were deadlocked. There are 4 instances since 1960 in which there has been a floor fight on the convention. And in every single one of those cases, the candidate who eventually survived that floor fight lost. Start with 1964. There was a real battle between the Goldwater and the Rockefeller forces for control over the Republican Party. In those days, primaries didn't account for a majority of the delegates, so the delegates could swing one way or the other. And Goldwater had defeated Rockefeller in the crucial California primary. And Goldwater was ascendant. Rockefeller gave a speech at the convention, and the Goldwater people walked out, and they looked really kind of nuts. In retrospect, we see Barry Goldwater as a statesman who was correct about the Vietnam War and really pointed the way for Reagan and conservatism. But at the time, he looked like a loon. And that convention had a lot to do with his overwhelming defeat. He only carried 3 or 4 southern states based on his opposition to the Civil Rights Bill. Then in 1968, it was the Democrats' turn to self-immolate. In the primaries, Eugene McCarthy, an anti-war senator, challenged Lyndon Johnson, the incumbent president, and came very close to defeating him in New Hampshire as a write-in. And that was really an incredible feat for him to manage. And then when the Wisconsin primary loomed, Johnson pulled out, ran away, and said, "I'm not going to run again." And at that point, Bobby Kennedy jumped into the race. And Kennedy fought McCarthy in all of the primaries until Kennedy eventually won the California primary, ending a string of almost total victories. And then unfortunately, he was killed that night as he proclaimed his victory in California. That set the stage for a horrible fight at the '68 Democratic Convention. George McGovern stepped in as sort of a stand-in for Bobby Kennedy. McCarthy continued to press his candidacy. And then Humphrey, running on a pro-war platform, took the nomination, and all hell broke loose. There were riots in Chicago and literally blood in the streets, and there was no way the Democrats were going to win after that. In 1972, the Democrats again destroyed their chances of winning at a convention. Leading up to their convention, Nixon was in serious trouble. The war was becoming increasingly unpopular, and the country was increasingly divided. But at the convention, George McGovern, who had controlled the convention, shut out the political leaders of the Democratic Party. They wouldn't even let Mayor Daley, who controlled the Illinois delegation, sit in the bleachers and watch it. They literally banned everybody, all of these leaders, from the convention. McGovern got the nomination at 2 in the morning after a bitter fight, and he was never a serious contender in the '72 election. Nixon steamrolled him. In 1976, it was the Republicans' turn to self-immolate. Gerald Ford was running for re-election, and Ronald Reagan challenged him. Initially, Ford won most of the primaries. Then Reagan upended Ford by winning the North Carolina primary and compounded it by winning the Texas primary. And that created a situation where while Ford had a majority, Reagan was really pretty close. I think Ford won by 200 delegates or something like that. It was nip and tuck until the very end. And that division, I think, cost the Republican Party their victory in 1976 and elected Jimmy Carter president. Now, we haven't had a deadlocked convention or a convention that was anything more than just a celebration of the nominee since 1976. Let's not have one this year. Thanks.